Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva, Jaya Guru Deva. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaura Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtotra Shri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivajagacharya Ashtotra Shri Srimad Divine Grace Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Kori Vaishnav Vrinda Ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki. ISKCON Founder Acharya BBD Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ke. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Sham Kun Radha Kun Giri Govardhan Ke. Vrindavan Dham Ke. Mathura Dham Ke. Navadvip Dham Ke. Jagannath Puri Dham Ke. Ganga Mai Ke. Yamuna Mai Ke. Tulsi Devi Ke. Bhakti Devi Ke. Shri Yugadharma Harinam Sankirtan Ke. Itai Gaur Premanande. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to this the Bhagavatam class and to everyone on the World Wide Web. We're reading from Canto 2, titled Cosmic Manifestation, Chapter 1, the first step in God realization, and text 14, which is up on the board. But before that, we recite our invocation. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, recite the Sanskrit together. Tavapi etarhi kauravya. Saptaham jivitavadi upakalpaya tatsarvam tavadya samparayikam tavapi etarhi kauravya saptaham jivitavadi upakalpaya tatsarvam tavadyat samparayikam tavapi etarhi kauravya saptaham jivitavadi upakalpya tatsarvam tavadyat samparayikam.
Upakalpaya tatsarvam tavadyat samparayikam
Word for word. Tava, your. Api, also. Etarhi, therefore. Kauravya, O one born in the family of Kuru. Saptaham, 7 days. Jivita, duration of life. Avadhi, up to the limit of. Upakalpaya, get them performed. Tat, those. Sarvam, all. Tava, so long. Yat, which are. Samparayikam, rituals for the next life. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. Translation. Maharaj Parikshit, now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life. Purport. Sukadev Goswami, after citing the example of Maharaj Khatvanga, who prepared himself for the next life within a very short time, encouraged Maharaj Parikshit by saying that since he still had 7 days at his disposal, he could easily take advantage of the time to prepare himself for the next life. Indirectly, the Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that he should take shelter of the sound representation of the Lord for the 7 days still remaining in the duration of his life, and thus get himself liberated. In other words, everyone can best prepare himself for the next life simply by hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, as it was recited by Sukadev Goswami to Maharaj Parikshit. The rituals are not formal, but there are also some favorable conditions which are required to be carried out, as instructed hereafter. Okay. We seek the invocation of the blessings of our acharyas. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantigam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Shaitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitam Scham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Shute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatirubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaevacha Patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Reading the translation again. Maharaj Parikshit, now your duration of life is limited to 7 more days. So during this time, you can perform all those rituals which are needed for the best purpose of your next life. Okay, I just wanted to read the previous 2 translations because they make together a theme. So text 12. What is the value of a prolonged life which is wasted, inexperienced by years in this world? Better a moment of full consciousness, because that gives one a start in searching after his supreme interest. Text 13. The saintly king Khatwanga, after being informed that the duration of his life would be only a moment more, at once freed himself from all material activities and took shelter of the supreme safety, the personality of Godhead. So the theme that's emphasized in these 3 verses, verse 12 to 14, that is quite glaringly obvious, is better to focus on the quality of life than the quantity of life. As we see, the story of Maharaj Khatwanga is spoken about in the previous verse, and it clearly says the quality of life matters, not quantity. And I don't want to, again, state the example that I stated last week of Kobe Bryant, but something that comes across very obviously, and I was reading an article by His Grace Vaisheshika Prabhu, a Back to Godhead article, and he states that in the bigger scheme of things, our life is just a matter of a few nanoseconds. It can be over at any moment. So we should seek out the Khatwanga moment at every moment of our life. Our life is a combination of, it's just made up of moments that make up our life. For example, we may be, I may be 35 years of age today, but something that happened 10 years ago, even though it was 10 years ago, I can remember it so distinctly that it appears to us that it just happened just yesterday. So it's just a fraction of a moment that we are here for, or in this body. And who knows when we move on to our next body. So the story of Khatwanga is clearly not to encourage procrastination. A lot of times we, especially, we come across people when we meet in our outreach, or when we meet and we try to encourage them in their spiritual life. We say, why don't you take up this practice? And they say, some of them actually will be quite wise enough and say, Maharaj Khatwanga, when he knew he had to leave, he dedicated himself, and so did Sukadev Goswami. So, I'll wait for that moment, and then I'll take up, whatever spiritual practice is best advisable for me. So we procrastinate. We put things to the last minute. And Bhagavatam here encourages that moment is at any time. It can come to us at any moment. I remember a story that my god sister once said. It was stated in this book called Life's Final Exam. and in that book, and she basically was from South Africa, and she was working for a company called Merrill Lynch as an investment banker or some sort of, something to do with financial services. And at that very moment, she was asked to go to New York to attend some sort of training at the Merrill Lynch headquarters, which is in the hub of, in New York City. So she was attending this seminar or this workshop, and she was sitting there on the day of 9/11. And she was attending her workshop, and all of a sudden there was such a huge jolt to the building that the tutor literally thought, oh, something has happened. But then they dismissed it, saying, oh, it felt as though it was similar to the earthquake in the bombing that had happened in 1993. Again, 2 seconds later, again there was another jolt, and now they started to panic. So they go down to the lobby or wherever they can, or to the lobby on that floor. They were on the 23rd floor, and they see out of the window, and they see World Trade Center, a plane just coming in, crashing onto it, and they literally thought it was an accident. But people were still panicking. And she said at that moment, she knew her life was at risk, and she wanted to chant, but she couldn't chant. She just couldn't do anything. She just felt there was something just obstructing her chanting. So she paces through the lobby, and then all of a sudden, boom, there's another collision. Then they look out the window, and the second building is now attacked by a plane. And they clearly know that this is not an accident, but it's some sort of a terrorist attack. And then the tutor, or whoever, the person who was responsible for all of them, they make them run down the stairs. And she's running down the stairs, and she's seeing people, some of them are actually praying, and she wants to chant, she can't chant. All of a sudden, she's like, at this very moment, if I have to leave my body, what do I have with me? I don't have my family, I have no one here. Luckily, in the bag that she was carrying, she had a japa beads. So she just stood there, and she just started to chant very, very intensely. 5 minutes later, the tutor just comes, you have to leave this building at this very moment. And she said, the rounds that she chanted at that moment were the best rounds that she'd ever chanted. She was so dependent on Krishna. So she comes out, and then just 6 minutes later or whatever, the building that she was in, the top story was, the fire, it caught on fire from some other source, and that was just destroyed. And basically it was some sort of Krishna's arrangement that she was asked to vacate at the right time. Now, what she said, the realization that she had at that moment was that just 10 minutes prior to that incident, New York City was bustling, it was vibrant, it was what you say, truly the Big Apple city, as people say. And then she said just within a matter of a few minutes, everything was just transformed into a place of utter chaos. And, people didn't know what to do. And she realized that at that moment, that was her Khatwanga moment, where she literally took shelter of the holy name. Then she survived to tell us the incident, but she said that can happen to any one of us. So that's, for all of us, that's an instructive lesson. And I was reading, does everyone here know of His Great Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, Prabhupada disciple? He said that a story was once relayed to him by a godbrother from the 80s, when they were all at the airport in Rome. And they were at the airport, and they were about to board a flight to go to Israel. And again, everything was hunky-dory, everything was, nice and peaceful. It was an air of positivity, families were greeting their loved ones to go, whatever. And all of a sudden, from nowhere, some members of the Abu Nidal organization just came and opened fire at everyone. And just a matter of few seconds, the whole scene was just transformed. There was just corpse, bodies of people just flying around, and the devotees survived. But again, they said, it doesn't discount the fact of just being devotees that we won't encounter problems, or we won't encounter any uncertainties. Uncertainties welcome us at every moment. So at that very moment, The devotees again took shelter of the holy name. Again, they survived. But the realization they took from it was that no matter what we do, we always have to take shelter of the process of bhakti yoga. Now, one thing that, as I was reading this purport, and something that occurred to me is, obviously our life can end at any moment. But more important than that, that's not what Bhagavatam is really emphasizing on. It's, like I said, it's asking us to make every moment of our life the Khatvanga moment. So what is really stopping us? A lot of times that, we picture ourselves to be at a certain stage of our Krishna consciousness, but we clearly know that we aren't there. So what stops us? There's something that is stopping us from being there that we don't want to accept. And it is stated in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, it's actually our false ego. Later on in the second canto, we'll read creation and how it takes place, how does matter evolve from subtle to gross. And in that it is said the very first element that actually that actually evolves when creation takes place is that false ego is the first element that's manifested from the Mahatattva, which is primordial, undifferentiated matter or undifferentiated modes of nature. From that, the modes of nature get differentiated, and then from that, false ego evolves. You have false ego in the mode of goodness, false ego in the mode of passion, and false ego in the mode of ignorance. Now, this false ego is something that keeps us here. I was reading this book by His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami. It's called Surrender. I really highly recommend that book for all of us. And in that, it is said, he says that Vaishnava Acharyas actually describe false ego to be a separate person. It's an enemy who's living within us, who knows all of our weaknesses. And guess what? That enemy reinforces our weaknesses. The longer it takes, for the amount of time that we want to be in denial of who our false self is, the longer our misery in this material realm continues. We just don't want to come out of this bubble that we've created for ourselves. And it's us. Very beautiful quote in the Bhagavad Gita, 3:27. Prakrite kriyamanani guna karmani sarvasha ahankara vimudatma karta ham iti manyate. The soul bewildered by false ego thinks himself to be the doer of activities, whereas it's material nature that is actually carrying out these activities. So it's this false ego that is actually keeping us here. A lot of times in our bhakti process, we see that we have attachments. All of us have attachments, right? As practitioners, we embark on this process to let go of our attachments. And our attachments can be gross and subtle. A lot of times the gross attachments can be very, very, to some extent easy to get over. No meat eating, so on and so forth. But the subtle attachments is what really is what anchors us to this world. And the false ego basically in a nutshell is, I am who I am who I'll survey, I want to be the enjoyer. And that really is a disease that we have to get go. A lot of times when and a very instructive exercise that Bhakti Tirtha Swami writes in that book is that all of us should, to some extent, do is to have some degree of introspection. We should ask ourselves, where are we? Where do we want to be? What is stopping me? A lot of time when we see devotees who we consider whose spiritual advancement is actually quite, who are actually making spiritual advancement as per our perception, we should go and ask them, what are you doing? What works for you? And we should be honest enough to admit that something that doesn't work for us, try to see what's not working for us and try and see what we can improve on.
So that's something that, we can all do. It hasn't been such a long time, but we've started the new year, and, people have goals at the beginning of the year, and then we all look forward to, maintaining those goals. So from time to time, Bhaktivedanta Swami was saying, keep an inventory of where you're at, where you want to be. And that helps us. Now, false ego definitely keeps us in because we want to be in. But then again, another section of the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, when Arjuna asks Krishna, what is it that's keeping me in this world? What is it that forces us, a conditioned soul, to be attached to this world? And it, beautifully Krishna says in 337, it's lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the mother nature and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world. So that, if we can, for myself, as I read it, I saw it as an instruction that, if I really, really make it a point to introspect, at some intervals, and that'll help me a lot. Now, other thing that's mentioned here is that Maharaj Parikshit was due to die in 7 days. And Bhaktivedanta Swami says, die before dying. Give up your false self before you uncover your true self, because it's a false self that's keeping us here. So I was reading this article, like I said, by Ravindra Swarup Prabhu, and he says that in the 80s he had come across a paperback version of an article in astronomy or astrology, and it gave a definition of death. And it was a very interesting definition of death. It said, death is the ultimate failure to perpetuate relationships. Death is the ultimate failure to perpetuate relationships. So all the relationships that we have, we cultivate, that we, preempt in order for us to being happy, it's all ended at death. And that is an instruction again for all of us. Now, keep in mind, this is meant to encourage us to go towards eternal life. It's not meant to discourage us. Oh, I'm going to die at any moment. What's the use? I'm not. What use is my life? That's not what Bhagavatam is telling us. Bhagavatam is pointing towards eternity. And on quite a few occasions, it happens we don't want to really make that steady progress in our Krishna consciousness because we are somehow not convinced of what lies ahead of us. We are not convinced of what the goal, are we really going to achieve that goal? Even though repeatedly Prabhupada says, I've given you all these instructions, you follow 4 regular principles, chant 16 rounds, serve the devotees, further, share Krishna with others, you're guaranteed to go back to Krishna in this very own lifetime. Despite hearing this repeatedly over and over again, nothing sets in. We still remain stagnant because our false ego just doesn't want to do it. So this past Sunday, we had the good fortune of hearing from His Grace Bhagavad Ashraya Prabhu. And he very beautifully narrated the story of Gop Kumar, which I may have heard like 3 or 4 times already. And it serves as a reminder of what awaits us. And just for the benefit of those that weren't here, and something that really gave me some impetus to move forward, in my Krishna consciousness. The story was so beautifully described by him. He said, Gop Kumar, in one sense, his life or his sojourn is basically similar to Arjuna. He's finding out his path. And a lot of instances, Prabhupada said, Arjuna is us. So Gop Kumar is a transcendental us. We're looking for nectar. We're looking for the transcendental destination. Where do we end up? And then he describes that Gop Kumar arrives in Goloka Vrindavan, in Vraj, in the land of Vraj. And as he lands there, he sees everyone there are so busy, arranging for Krishna and Balaram to come back. And no one notices him there because they're so busy in, welcoming. Because it's the end of the day, the Gopas and Krishna's associates and the cows and the calves are all about to come back. So they're just busy making preparations. And as they make they're making such preparations. Gopkumar just is observing what's happening. He's just taking a note. And then all of a sudden, there's a conch shell being blown. There's a lot of hustle and bustle of Krishna and the cowherd boys coming, and all the intimate associates of Krishna that are actually preparing for him to come. They rush towards the scene where they'll actually get to see Krishna and Balaram. And it is said that at that very moment there was a cloud of dust that's come, that actually appears because of the cows and the calves, they create this beautiful atmosphere, and they can't see anyone. They can't see the boys, they can't see Krishna and the Gopas, and then all of a sudden, they see Krishna. The associates and Gopkumar see Krishna. The moment they see him, Krishna doesn't see any of his associates. He just sees Gopkumar. And he runs towards Gopkumar, and he embraces him. Krishna faints and Gopkumar faints. And no one knows what's happening. And then after a while, when they both gain external consciousness, Krishna and Gopkumar, and Bhagavad Gita beautifully describes that in the spiritual world there's a certain, there's an element of yoga maya. So for the time that you're gone, that we have left, no one remembers you. But the moment you step back in to that realm of Vraj, it's as though you've come back, but then Krishna reintroduces you to everyone. So then Krishna looks at Gopkumar and he says, and Gopkumar is just in awe. He just doesn't know. He's just dumbfounded. He doesn't know how to react. And Krishna says, you don't know how many times have I looked at that, whatever pasture that he's looking at, just to see when you're coming. I've waited all these lifetimes just waiting for you to just come through. And then there's a beautiful description of the dialogue that Krishna and Gopkumar have. And he embraces him again, and then he introduces him. And his name is not Gopkumar, his name is something else. And he introduces him to everyone that, look, he's here. And then Yogamaya again, oh yes, yeah, where were you? We saw you in the morning, and you're not here. So that's what awaits us. Krishna himself comes out to receive you. Krishna himself is eagerly waiting for us. Krishna misses us. Last year when Ganesham Prabhu gave the seminar on Brihad Bhagavatamrita, he was saying that when we leave from the spiritual, when we leave spiritual world means it's a physical place, but when we decide to part ways and want to enjoy in this realm independent of Krishna, whatever service or whatever was allotted to us, there's just a sign there saying, let's say, person XYZ, is missing. So when you go back, you just resume that service. There's no one can actually ever take up the service that you do. That's why each and every one of us are individually unique in our relationship to Krishna. There's nothing that I can do or whatever I do can be done by someone else. Whatever you do, everything is unique, and that's the beauty of our relationship with Krishna. It can never be compensated by anything else. So when we are convinced, that's what awaits us. That's what will propel us to take up our Krishna consciousness more seriously. Prabhupada would always, and we are fortunate enough to see such examples in our day-to-day life, even of devotees. For example, just recently we had one of a congregation member leave their body, His Grace Satya Sen Prabhu. And if you'd ever seen him, you'd always see him to be someone who's so, he's so jovial, always giving. He'd given shelter to the whole congregation in a sense that You never saw him, sitting in one corner just, oh Prabhu, don't talk to me. You never see him in that mood. You would always see him dancing in kirtan. Practically, I would always see him serving prasad. I never even saw him eat prasad, honor prasad. That was his mood. And when he left, how did he leave? He was just sitting in the Dham. He was in Vrindavan, but then he made his way to Belgaum to see His Holiness Bhakti Rasamrita Swami. He was just sitting in class hearing Krishna Katha, and all of a sudden left. So Krishna assures us from time to time. It's just us who don't want to hear it. And again, it's because of a false ego. Our false ego just is being that barrier. So, as I speak, it's a lesson for myself. And this purport Prabhupada emphasizes to please take our Krishna consciousness seriously. Make this attempt, or make this as our last life, because now, for example, if we were promised that, tomorrow, or, let's say in a few hours, let's say if you're undertaking a journey from, I don't know, Sydney to Canberra. Well, not Canberra at the moment, but let's say Sydney to Brisbane. And we are told that, in Brisbane what awaits us. Whatever we ever desired is actually in Brisbane. We wouldn't take the struggles that we have to undertake, that'll actually overcome, that'll be a part of our journey. From Sydney to Brisbane, we have to stop over, if there are any traffic delays, or, we are actually quite sleep deprived. It won't bother us because we know what's awaiting us at a destination. Similarly, it is that whatever happens in this life, just treat it as our stepping stones to arrive at Krishna's lotus feet and be able to serve him and the devotees. So it's 8:40. I'll end here if someone has any questions in the comments, but I just want to say that this purport really, as preparing for it, and I went through some journals and some articles by various devotees such as Bhakti Tirtha Swami, Vaisheshika Prabhu, my spiritual master, and so many others. It really served a wake-up call to me. So I hope all of us can somehow or the other be inspired by Prabhupada's emphatic message in this purport, and we can all take advantage of it. Okay, if there's any questions or comments. Yes, Mandagosh Prabhu. How can we die before dying? Well, like I said, it's our false ego that binds us. We don't want to. In one sense, a false ego is just telling us, like, for example, a friend of mine, husband and wife, they'd gone to Vrindavan, I think 2 years ago. And then that was their first time they were going to Vrindavan after, I think, 10 years or something. So when they came back from Vrindavan, I asked them, what was your realization? Can you share with us? And within a fraction of a second, the Mataji, the wife, said, I realized how much I love this material world. How attached I am to this material world. You may be surprised that going to the Dham, we get certain desires, or let's take our spiritual life more seriously. But she said that was the realization that I had, that how much I wanted to come, I was in the Dham, but I wasn't in the Dham, in a sense. So how can we overcome material desires? Personally, what I've seen is that association matters a lot. Associating with the people who have somehow, to some extent or the other, transcended material desire. For example, we may have certain material desires as is a broad term, but there are many desires for us, let's say, for us to overcoming, lust, greed, envy, whatever it's stated. But there are people around us who have transcended that. Association with them gives us a higher taste. And like Prabhupada always said, dovetailing them in Krishna consciousness. Whatever assets or whatever faculty or whatever intelligence that we have, just try to use that for Krishna. false ego, like I said, in general, is something that keeps us here. So personally, for myself, I'll always look to, whenever I can, I look to book distribution as a humbling exercise. When we go out in books, we are constantly reminded we are not the doers. So the more I have, more experience that I've had of those, some extent has given me some realization that Krishna is actually the doer. And the more we submit ourselves to that arrangement, I think the more we become convinced that Krishna is actually there. So, Brahms, I remember last year Mahatma Prabhu was giving a class at someone's home. I think it was Amber and David's place. And someone was asking him, how, there are times, I think the class was titled How to Maintain Bhakti or something. I'm just paraphrasing, right? So, how do we not slacken in bhakti? And then someone asked a question. Yeah, we know that, at times, but at times also complacency sets in. How do we not become complacent? And he said there are many gap fillers, like going to the dham, associating with devotees. But he said, you have to pray to Krishna to give you that realization. And he said that he had that realization over all these years that Krishna is real. No matter how, we see it, but Krishna is real. He's there. So that's something that helped me to some extent. Yes, Prabhu? Krishna, yeah. Mercy of Krishna. That book, Bhakti Tirtha Swami says, I think it was subtitle that was how can I continue day after day? And he says now looking, this is a journal, so he's saying, how can I continue day after? How have I carried on through all these years? And I can clearly see it's the mercy of my spiritual master who's made me through it. Where our false ego comes in is that okay, we are the doers, This is what we can. We are capable on our own accord to do this. Then Krishna just says, okay, do it. And there are times when Krishna jolts you for a bit, and then we come to our senses. Then we do that. Without Krishna, it's not possible. Or without the mercy of the devotees who are acting through the medium of Krishna. Okay, 8:45. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Srila Prabhupada ki. Clockwise.